The toll of the White Highway. The blizzard did not arrive. It materialized, swallowing the jagged peaks of the Allegheny National Forest in a suffocating shroud of white. It was late December, and Interstate 80 had been reduced from a roaring artery of American commerce to a slick, lethal ribbon of black ice. In the cab of an 18-wheeler hauling 40 tons of volatile industrial solvents, Elias Vance gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles were bone white. Elias was a veteran of the asphalt, a hardened, cynical man whose 50 years of life had been measured in mile markers and stale diner coffee. But tonight, the psychological weight of the storm was cracking his iron resolve. The headlights of his rig cut mere feet into the hypnotic, swirling vortex of snow. Beyond the glass, the world had ceased to exist. There was only the howling, predatory roar of the wind, sounding like a chorus of starving wolves. Beside him in the passenger seat sat his nephew, Julian. At 22, Julian was soft, untested, and currently vibrating with a quiet, suppressed panic. In the sleeper cab behind them were Marcus and Wyatt, two burly, loud-mouthed riggers who had spent the last hour uncharacteristically silent, their bravado stripped away by the very real proximity of death. If the rig jackknifed on this mountain pass, they wouldn't just crash. The solvents would ignite, turning the truck into a localized sun. "We can't keep pushing, Elias," Julian whispered, his breath fogging the freezing glass. "The engine temperature is dropping. The anti-gel isn't holding." Elias didn't look at him. His eyes were locked on the white void. "There's nothing out here, kid. If we stop on the shoulder, we freeze in the cab. Or a plow takes our head off." But as the rig's massive engine began to stutter a terrifying metallic cough that sent a jolt of pure adrenaline straight into Elias's heart, a hazy flickering neon glow bled through the storm. It was an exit sign. Below it, barely visible through the snowdrifts, stood a sprawling 3-story Victorian-style manor retrofitted into a motel. The neon sign, half dead and buzzing violently, read, "The Blackwood Inn and Tavern." "Thank God," Wyatt rasped from the back, the relief in his voice palpable. Elias navigated the sputtering rig into the snow-choked parking lot. As he cut the engine, the sudden silence inside the cab was deafening, immediately replaced by the moaning of the wind against the metal. They had survived the highway. But as Elias stared at the dark, imposing silhouette of the Blackwood Inn, a deep, irrational sense of foreboding settled in his gut. The house looked less like a sanctuary and more like a massive, rotting tooth jutting out of the snow. Inside, the inn was a stark contrast to the frozen hell outside. It was stiflingly hot, heated by a massive cast-iron wood stove. The proprietor stood behind the heavy oak reception desk. His name tag read Silas. He was a gaunt, hollow-out man in his 60s, wearing a slightly rumpled black suit. His skin possessed a sickly, translucent pallor, and his eyes were sunken, carrying the heavy, glassy weight of profound exhaustion. "I have nothing," Silas said before Elias could even speak. His voice was a dry, papery rasp. Not a bed, not a cot, not a square foot of carpet in the lobby. The storm brought everyone down from the pass. Elias leaned his heavy frame against the desk. "Silas, listen to me. I've got 3 boys with me. My rig is carrying hazmat. We can't sleep in that tin can. We'll be dead by morning. I'll pay triple your highest rate for a hallway floor." Silas stared at Elias. A strange, unreadable shadow flickered across the old man's face. "There is 1 room," Silas said, lowering his voice. "The front parlor. I locked it. My wife, Eleanor. She passed away yesterday morning. Her wake is supposed to be tomorrow, if the road's clear. She's laid out in there. Elias felt a cold prickle of revulsion. There's a pull-out sofa, Silas continued, and enough floor space. It's warm. But you would be sharing the room with her. We'll take it, Marcus interrupted, stepping forward. I don't care if Jimmy Hoffa's in there. I just want to feel my toes again. Silas nodded slowly. Very well. She always hated being alone in the dark anyway. The parlor was an olfactory nightmare. The sharp chemical sting of formaldehyde masked by the sickly sweet scent of wilting white lilies. In the center, in an open casket, was Eleanor. She was a severe-looking woman, silver hair in a tight bun, her skin the color of old parchment. Around 3 a.m., the temperature in the parlor plummeted. It was an instantaneous, freezing shock wave. Elias heard it. Shh. The sound of starched silk sliding against satin. Elias frozen. The corpse was sitting up. Eleanor's torso was bent at a rigid, unnatural 90-degree angle. Her head was slumped forward. The movement had been a jerky, ratcheting motion of a broken animatronic. As Elias watched in mind-shattering horror, Eleanor swung her legs over the side of the casket. Pop, crack. The sound of her rigor mortis stiffened joints snapping echoed like gunshots. She stood at a slight tilt, her arms hanging uselessly. She did not breathe. She walked toward Wyatt with a dragging gait, her jaw unhinged with a wet tearing sound. She opened her mouth impossibly wide and exhaled a thick, shimmering, luminescent mist. It drifted down, covering Wyatt's face. Wyatt's snoring instantly choked off. The mist reversed its flow, a thin wisp of something vital being pulled from Wyatt's mouth and inhaled into the corpse. Eleanor's cheeks flushed with a faint, sickening hint of stolen pink. The instinct for self-preservation flooded Elias. He lunged for the door, threw himself into the dark hallway, and screamed for Silas. The lobby was empty. Behind him, the wet, slapping sound of bare, dead feet moving at a terrifying, frantic speed on the hardwood. She was running. Elias smashed through the front doors into the raging blizzard. Over the roar of the wind, he heard a high-pitched, warbling insectoid shriek, completely devoid of human vocal cords. He ran blindly, lungs burning, until a small stone chapel emerged through the whiteout. He pounded on the doors. Help! Open the door! A dark silhouette glided toward him, milky eyes open, jaw unhinged. The chapel door jerked inward. Father Thomas hauled Elias inside. Father Thomas didn't reach for a weapon. He reached for a small, tarnished silver flask. He jammed his oil-soaked thumb directly onto the forehead of the corpse. Requiem aeternam dona eis, Domine, he bellowed. The reaction was apocalyptic. Where the oil touched, a violent hiss erupted, followed by the sizzle of burning meat. Eleanor let out a scream that shook the stained glass, a sound of pure spiritual agony. Thick black smoke poured from her skull as she melted into the blizzard. Father Thomas slammed the door. The mountain takes many things, the priest whispered, but it should not take the dead. The blizzard broke 2 days later. The coroner ruled it carbon monoxide poisoning. Cadaveric spasm, she said, combined with trapped decomposition gases. It can make a body sit up. It's strictly biology. Elias didn't argue. He watched the 3 black body bags being loaded. Silas stood on the porch, his hollow pallor gone, his cheeks flushed with a healthy pink. He raised a hand in a slow, chilling wave. The innkeeper hadn't put them in the parlor because there was no room. He knew exactly what his wife needed to stay tethered to this world. 3 young, strong breaths. A toll paid in life, to keep the dead walking. Elias never drove a truck again. But he never slept with the lights off.